Hi everyone, I'm Wouter Koppert, your host for today, and this conversation is all about the intersection of network engineering, performance at scale, and real-world customer experience. How Acronis and i3D.net rebuilt Acronis' North America backbone architecture, and also how they are paving the way for stronger performance in regions like LATAM. Joining me here today, we have Ilya Sivkov, which is the lead network engineer at the Data Center Operations Network team from Acronis. And we have our own Martijn Schmidt, VP of Network at i3D.net. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you very much for being here. Let's start off with Ilya. Ilya, can you introduce yourself a bit more, what your role is within the organization, and what your position is within this partnership with i3D.net?
Thank you, Wouter. Thank you for introducing me. My name is Ilya Sivkov. My team, Data Center Operations Network team, is responsible for maintaining a highly scalable and redundant data center network across the world. For Acronis, we have more than 50 data centers globally, and our company, Acronis, specializes in cyber protection and native AI integrated protection of data for the customers and endpoint disaster recovery as well. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Ilya. Shifting over to Martijn. Martijn, can you also introduce yourself, your job role, and your position within this partnership with Acronis?
Yeah, so I'm Martijn Schmidt, VP of Network at i3D.net. I've been around here for 14 years and over the years seen a lot of how the network has grown into what it is today. So with a global footprint, our own intercontinental links, but importantly also, extensive North American footprint with a fine-maced network and compute across entire continental US. And my role in this partnership has really been like helping on the engineering side to figure out what tweaks are necessary to like the standard solutions to make things fit for Acronis. And it's been a real pleasure to work together with you guys to make that happen.
Likewise.
Thank you, Martijn, as well. Gentlemen, let's start off. I'm very excited for this conversation. And as you know, I have prepared a couple of questions. So let's dive into the details. And of course, Ilya, I want to start with you as being our guest. Before partnering with i3D.net, what did Acronis' North American backbone and edge setup look like, and what pain points pushed you to rethink it?
Mm-hmm. So before partnering, we had our own backbone, as you mentioned already. It consisted of 12, or sometimes we count it as 13 POPs, which is a point of presence. It's a standard design where we had two redundant routers with a lot of redundant ISP connections, internet exchanges, direct peerings, etc. And all of the POPs were connected together in a highly redundant multipath, jumbo frame enabled backbone by leveraging the use of third-party wavelengths. So this setup allowed us to ensure that customer performance was at the best of its possible points. And what we used it for is in each of the POPs, we had our own edge server, which is Acronis Edge Proxy, we call it, which essentially allowed us to terminate the TCP sessions of the clients closer to the source to ensure the maximum performance possible. So that's the initial point where we came from, and that's how we started.
All right, I want to stick a bit more into those edge proxies, basically, and I have a question about that. So can you break down how the Acronis Edge Proxy architecture works and why it's so central to customers' backup performance? And then specifically, what technological challenge were you trying to address there?
Mm-hmm. So we have a huge amount of customers at Acronis. They are dispersed across all of North America, somewhere in Canada, somewhere in Latin America. And we only have several data centers, like key data convergence points where we stream all our customer data to. And sometimes, for example, there is a customer that is located a considerable distance across the states, and he's backing up to a location that is, for example, 80, 90 milliseconds away in terms of latency. And let's say, for example, from Chicago to Phoenix. What we wanted to address with using the edge proxies is that instead of customer going through the plain internet to reach to our data centers, we installed proxy servers at the edge closer to the customers to ensure that his TCP session, when he's doing the backup, terminates as close to the source of the traffic as possible. Essentially, we split the TCP session into two parts, with one smaller part being closer to the customer with low latency, but still it had like 1500 MTU transmission unit. And the second leg of this path went entirely through our own backbone, which was jumbo frame enabled. So that means higher MTU, predictable, deterministic traffic paths that we can control ourselves instead of relying on the internet. And essentially splitting this session into two helped us increase the performance, because from customer perspective, if you take a long TCP session, like on a long fat networks, it cannot be predictably adjusted. So in terms of we are at the mercy of ISPs and external providers. If there's packet loss, we also suffer from that. But here we limit the packet loss and any uncertainty points to this small, very predictable window between the customer and the edge proxy, which increase the performance and stability overall. So that's essentially how what was the design plan for the edge proxies, why we developed it.
Yeah. And I think the main technical thing that you're doing there is something to do with TCP windowing, right?
Right. So as I said, the way that we split the session into two allowed us, for example, the TCP windowing between the customer source and the edge proxy scales up real fast because of the small latency for the session. And the same window can also scale fast between the edge proxy and our storage server, because we have a jumbo frame enabled there. And those two factors combined allow us to leverage a high window scale, high TCP window, to ensure that the traffic ramps up fast and keeps going fast, essentially.
Yeah. And for the viewers that are not familiar with the TCP windowing, basically when you have a TCP session, you need to get like an answer back that, okay, you can send the next piece of traffic, right?
Right.
And the longer the latency between those 2 points where you are exchanging it, like the longer time that you spend waiting for the answer that you can send the next bit of data rather than actually transferring the data. And so in that sense, it's very beneficial to cut that into little pieces, because even if you have the capacity, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to use it, right? Like you might have 100 gig link available and you could get like a couple megabits over it if the latency is too high due to the TCP windowing. So it's really that kind of technical thing that you can try to address by doing that kind of relaying, like a estafette system in a way.
Right. Hey, and I want to go one step back now, because we started the conversation mainly about the backbone, right? Backboning itself. You guys were operating that. I have a question about that, because when you began exploring alternatives, what made i3d.net stand out compared to other backbone as a service options?
That's a really good question. We did an extensive search of all other competitors, and what we were aiming for mainly is to have both the ability to deploy bare metal servers close to the customers, and that the third party that we were trying to partner with operates a global backbone, a global highly redundant backbone, because that's essentially what we were trying to replace by going to i3d.net. Mm-hmm. And after analyzing all of the potential competitors, we ended up with i3d.net because, as I said, you provided both the backbone and the capability to deploy bare metal servers. So that was the key decision. And also, I would like to mention that one of the key deciding factors was that you went ahead and agreed to deploy an extra point of presence in Phoenix, where our main data destination is located for the customers. And this was a big selling point for us.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to go back into the old days for you, Ilya, basically, because I have a question about the past. So, what did a typical week of operating your own backbone look like, and which parts of that work are you happiest to hand off?
Oh, yeah. Now that we don't need to worry about it anymore, I can talk freely about that. Yeah. So, as I said, we had 12 points of presence in the US with double routers in each location, redundant waves going back and forth. And it all involved a lot of capacity planning and financial planning to keep all the collocations paid, ISPs contracts paid, keep track of all the terms, contracts, etc. Also, I need to mention the hardware issues that are definitely arising when you have a lot of equipment like that. So, for example, a day in a week of operating the backbone might look like, for example, on the Monday we will have like an optic cut between like Seattle and San Jose, and we need to deal with that, or at least receive like a 10-15 emails from our third-party wave supplier that, guys, we're fixing it. Yeah, don't worry, it's gonna be fixed soon. Also, we need to deal with, for example, transceiver issues on our side or on our partner's side. So we need to replace that. We need to make sure that collocation, like smart hands, install the equipment in the correct way. So it required quite a lot of operational expenses and man hours to operate. Yeah. So the part that I'm not missing the most personally, because I started as like an engineer operating the backbone, is mostly the transceiver issues, most likely. Yeah. So replacing the optics and dealing with the internet exchange port that went down, and we need to bring it up. Otherwise, other links are getting overloaded. Yeah, that was the worst part to deal with. But I'm glad that we are not doing that anymore.
Yep. Yeah, and maybe it's also good to mention that like the operating that network doesn't stop like at the end of the work week, right? Like unfortunately, that's what we observe as well, and that's why we operate like with the 24/7 live operations teams. Like in the weekend, you also have your fiber cuts. In the weekend, you also have your on-call adventures in case there is something that needs engineering.
The construction works don't stop at weekend, and they tend to dig up more and more optic cables.
Yeah. Yeah, the natural predator of fiber cables, the good old backhoe.
Exactly. Hey, and I can imagine as well, like from operating your own backbone, migrating away to more like a backbone as a service alternative, right? Like migrating is always a big challenge. So I have a question about that as well. Were there any surprises during the migration, either positive or challenging, as you shifted away from your own backbone?
That's also a good question. The thing that surprised me and my team the most is that how proactive and responsive i3.net team was during the transition period. And I would like to thank everyone involved for that. All the teams that worked on our project. It was such a pleasure to work with you guys. And the surprises is, I got to mention that, as I said, the key selling point was that you agreed to open up a whole new data center, essentially a whole new point of presence in your own backbone to accommodate our needs. Because previously, for the viewers that do not have the context, you did not have a point of presence in Phoenix, right?
Yeah,
so
correct.
You created a whole new deployment just to accommodate our request. And yeah, that was the first big surprise and a positive surprise. As for challenges on our side, I think the most challenging part for Acronis to transition was to make sure that as we gradually roll off the IP transits and internet exchanges and all the points of presence, we wanted to preserve the customer experience at the same level and not cause any outages or degradations, which was our key goal. So the main challenge was to plan the decommissioning plan the decommission in such a way that we do not overload any other links by removing the existing ones. So yeah, that was the most challenging part.
All right, thanks. And then, yeah, you guys choose eventually, of course, to partner up with i3d.net in that sense. Let's look at the onboarding. What was the onboarding experience look like from Acronis' perspective? And I want to have actually 2 points lighted out there. Technically, but also culturally.
So onboarding, starting from the proof of concept that we did sometime last year to actually considering the service live and enrolled already, the experience was amazing, I gotta say. It was actually something I have never seen while working with other third-party vendors, is that we, right from the very first day, we engaged in a very closely connected discussion, right, with the key stakeholders from the company. We were not opening tickets. We were not talking to like a long chain of personnel to get to the point. We were straight up supported by Martijn and Wouter and all the guys from their team, which made the experience and onboarding very pleasant and very stress-free. That I gotta admit. That is more like cultural, as you said, and from the technical standpoint, I was very like it was very pleasant to work with such a technically skilled team, and I think we learned a lot from working together within our teams, and yeah, I would cherish that experience. Very
well. Thanks. Thank you very much for the nice words, and I think that fits in perfectly for the question that I have for Martijn. Because Martijn, why does i3d.net emphasize engineer-to-engineer communication instead of ticket-driven service layers?
Well, we do have tickets, of course, right? Like otherwise you cannot track like SLAs and you cannot do like a good 24/7 service. But I think that at a certain point you get into the conversation where you need to have like a direct communication to basically cut down the time to solve the issue or to like reach an understanding about how something should be implemented. And like you can beat around the bush by going for like a lot of indirect communication via tickets or support personnel or whatever. But at the end of the day, that's not just wasting our time, is also wasting your time, right?
Yeah.
And time is like one of the most precious resources we all have. So I think that in that sense, making sure that when it makes sense, you have direct communication with the engineering team is like an important factor in our way of operating.
Thank you. Yeah, going back to you, because I want to talk a bit more about some improvements that you saw during that time. So what quantifiable improvements did you see initially during the POC stage and subsequently after moving production customer traffic onto the i3d.net backbone?
Right, because we want to focus on the numbers as well. So from the point of the proof of concept that we did, what we saw is we did, as I said, the proof of concept in Chicago. We connected an IP transit, I believe it was 10 gigabit link, right?
Yeah.
To our backbone. Back then we had the whole backbone operational. So, and what we tested was how a customer located in Chicago metro area, backing up to a Phoenix data center, which is on the other side of the country, essentially, how his performance changed. So we tested 3 scenarios. We had him back up directly through public internet, which achieved us a speeds of around 100 megabits per second. Good, but still not quite there. Yes, and after that we tried our existing solution with our Acronis Edge Proxy deployed in our backbone. The speeds were 440 megabits per second, so it's a 4.4 times increase. Now we're getting there, right?
Yeah.
And during the proof of concept with only this small 10 gigabit IP transit link and test server deployed in i3d.net backbone, we achieved the speeds of 460 megabits per second, which is already even better than we had with our own backbone, mostly because probably your backbone is better optimized and this is your main selling point, right?
Yeah.
So those are the quantifiable results. And I got to say that this underlines that Acronis and Acronis solution can be replaced seamlessly with whatever i3d.net provides. So this was the also a good selling point for us, that we can show our stakeholders that this is a solution that does the same for the customer experience, but at a fraction of operational costs. So as I can share, we had achieved more than 50% savings annually in transition to i3d.net compared to our own backbone. Yes.
Which is a significant number. Thank you for that, Ilya. And not only zooming in then on the throughput, but there are most likely more additional benefits as well. So I have a question about that. So beyond the raw throughput, what additional benefits did the transition unlock? Operational, financial, or architectural?
So the main transition benefit here was, of course, a reduced operational costs. As I said, like 50% less to operate. And another good selling point is that we now have much more concise and much easier to operate backbone. We went down from 24 devices to just 6 because of that. So, and we went from 20 plus waves to just 2. And this makes the solution and the architectural complications much less, and we don't need to worry about them as much.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know how it is like in network engineering, that you always have something to do. Like it is always something, one of the good old RFC 1925 things. And yeah, like you can repurpose that time elsewhere, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. So with the reduced operational expenses and like hourly expenses for operating the backbone, we can definitely focus our networking efforts elsewhere. And this is also a good point.
Looking at the monitoring now. So how did you rebuild monitoring and observability to support the new Acronis Edge Proxies footprint?
So we previously we were using a highly complicated stack of technologies to keep a track of all the Acronis Edge Proxies inside our backbone, and we leveraged Grafana, Elasticsearch, InfluxDB, Telegraph, and the way that we transitioned from monitoring it in-house to monitoring it from an external network perspective, because from our perspective, those servers are located outside of our network right now, was quite interesting. And the way we solved it is by moving the monitoring to IPv6, actually. So previously we were monitoring the servers by using IPv4 addressing. So our automation team made a really good job and made the really considerable effort to transition the monitoring for all the Acronis Edge Proxies to IPv6 addressing, because we are also peering with you and we are announcing IPv6 addressing. So that's how the monitoring was achieved. Monitoring was restored, actually. And we're also using the monitoring that's provided on your portal, 1.i3d.net, which is also quite insightful sometimes.
Yeah. And I'm interested that you said like for IPv4 versus IPv6, right? I mean, it's at the end of the day like just like a transport layer, if you will.
Yeah.
Like how is the IPv6 like benefiting you? Like in our network, it's always been like sort of an equal citizen, right? We started it out, I think, in 2009 or thereabouts, and we never operated with IPv4 only. But what was the driver to go to IPv6 there?
the key driver was to go to IPv6 was to standardize, because most of our servers where we operate inside our backbone and inside our standalone data centers, they are monitored and they are mainly working with IPv6. So that allows us to circumvent the shortage of IPv4 addressing, and we don't need to procure constantly a public subnets. We don't need to negotiate with the ISPs to let them announce our subnets ourselves. And so we reduce quite a lot of operational costs. So we buy one subnet and it's lasting us forever, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many billions of IPv6 addresses in each block, and you can get the freebies from the RIRs anyway. So,
That's what.
Do you also do like address translation at the edge proxies?
No, okay. We don't do that. You mean IPv4 to IPv6?
Yeah, like basically that the user-facing session may still be on IPv4, but then the backend session towards the long-term storage facility on IPv6.
No, we don't do that yet, but it's certainly something that we can explore further on, and also as more and more people locally have their home IPv6 ready and enabled. I think the transition will be more gradual, more natural, I would say. So they would just use IPv6 addressing to go to the proxy, and then from the proxy to the storage server, they will also go by IPv6.
Yeah. And what kind of technologies are running on the edge proxy, to make that happen?
The translation, or you mean the TCP session split?
The TCP session split, yes.
So the Acronis Edge Proxies are based on open source HA proxy installation, which is a highly scalable load balancer that we use. It's open source. How it runs actually behind the scenes is we do have 4 VMs in each point of presence, Acronis Edge Proxy VMs, that leverage Anycast traffic to split the TCP streams for the customer and make sure that the customers use the closest traffic source to them as possible.
Yeah. Did you have to do any fine tuning for the Anycast routing, or it just sort of worked when you started announcing without any communities or anything like that?
We at first we start leveraging communities for to essentially map certain regions of the US by states to certain Acronis Edge proxies. But then we tried removing them as well, and saw that the traffic was distributed more naturally. So we went with the simpler solution.
Yeah, it's always been like one of our goals to sort of have something that works by default rather than having to do a lot of fine tuning to get there. So it's interesting that you also experience the same. We had a few weeks ago, like also a different podcast with a team of Quad 9, and there we also talked a lot about like the Anycast routing in the United States. So that was interesting.
Right, Martijn, thank you as well for elaborating a bit more on that. Guys, let's continue with another question. So how did you technically unwind your own backbone and replace it with i3d.net bare metal edge nodes and IP transit?
Oh, it was quite an adventure, I must say. So as far as I remember, the first point of presence we had to decommission were in Chicago and Atlanta, because they were contracts that were running out with the colocation providers. And essentially we had to take into account all of the contract terms for ISPs, IXPs, colocations, leasing of the equipment. And we built like a huge table that showed that, okay, we need to do this POP first, then this POP, and that's it, and etc. So how it actually went is we, just by chance, I would say, the points of presence that had to go first due to contractual obligations were right in the middle of the states. So essentially removing them cut our backbone in half. So we have an island on the west coast of connected POPs and an island on the east coast. So this proved quite challenging to design in general and work around, but we managed to, by increasing the capacity and ensuring that we have enough links to house all the customer traffic that started going through the internet instead of going through the backbone, we made sure that the customer experience was not suffering. And gradually, by decommissioning point of presence after point of presence, we came down to what we have right now. We only have Phoenix, Ashburn, and Toronto essentially left.
Yeah. And I remember that at the start of the migration plan that there was like a multi-month like plan where I think even deep into 2026 some locations would remain online due to the termination dates of the co-locations or wavelengths or whatnot. But I think by now you've actually shut down most of the links, right? And for the viewers, we are talking March of 2026. So what caused you to like shift gears with the migration strategy?
Actually, it was due to the fact that we counted how much we would pay for early termination costs to the colocation owners, to the ISPs and IXs. And due to some basic calculation, we figured out that if we keep the POP running, it would introduce unnecessary operational complexities. And essentially, we would be running some hybrid solution for a prolonged amount of time, which would also might endanger the customer experience. And what we decided to do is to cut our losses, essentially, and terminate early, pay the termination fees. And it was still cheaper than let the POP run out its course.
Yeah, that makes sense that you step on the gas in that case. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Or on the brakes.
Or on the brakes.
You already covered basically my question, Jens. I want to say, do you still maintain any private backbone links yourself? And what purpose do they serve now? But I think you already tackled that brilliantly. So
you do still manage a couple of them, right?
Yes. So we still utilize two of the links between Ashburn and Phoenix. They are geodiverse optic paths provided by a third-party wavelengths provider. What we mainly use them for is the geo-replication traffic between the data centers. So if we have something coming from Phoenix to Ashburn or vice versa, this traffic does not go through the internet, it goes through the backbone itself. And the first wave was already deployed, and we are pending deployment of the second wave, which should be completed by end of Q1.
Nice. In terms of pathing, like these two are quite far apart, and like one of the things that I noticed when we were doing our own research for the Phoenix location was that it's really quite hard to find a path between like Dallas and Phoenix, or like the east part of the US and Phoenix, that doesn't go through like El Paso area and then to the south of things. How did you solve that? Did you manage to find something further to the north for your second path, or?
During when we were discovering how to do it, like geo-diverse pathing in this location particularly, we also hit the same snag as you mentioned. We were offered two diverse paths, which were not actually diverse. They were going through El Paso, like you said. So we had to revert back to the provider and said, like, yes, give us something else. They provided us a path that I believe was going north, up to Dallas. But the second is still going to El Paso. So we have those two waves.
So Dallas,
we had two waves.
Denver, right? Or
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, Jens, let's take the conversation a bit more south, literally. So I want to talk about LATAM. How does LATAM fit into your broader performance and expansion strategy?
Latin America is a very big market for Acronis. We have a lot of customers that are dispersed across different countries in LATAM. With two of our biggest data centers are in Brazil, in Sao Paulo. So this market is on the forefront of our expansions, I would say. And as many people from this part of the world utilize our services more and more, we also try to provide the best experience we can for them by building backbones, building new data centers, expanding existing data centers. And I think that i3d.net, as I know that you have a point of presence in Sao Paulo as well.
Yep.
So I think that this might be a good idea to discuss further at some point of time.
Yeah. And do you see that in Latin America that people are mainly like backing up to one of the local data centers inside Latin America itself, or do you see that they're also backing up to the United States, like to have a bit of geodiversity?
Mostly our customers are backing up to the local data centers, but as we have like the key point of presence there is Brazil, and sometimes the customers from, for example, Argentina don't want their data to be backed to Brazil. They choose to be backed up to Phoenix instead.
Yeah.
So this, if we can connect Phoenix, for example, our American backbone to Latin America, it would greatly benefit their performance as well.
I want to stay a bit with that because I have some questions around that. Like, what unique technical or commercial challenges are you running into in the Latin American connectivity ecosystem?
Oh, yeah. Latin America is actually a very interesting region from that perspective, because from my personal experience, that the connectivity there is a little bit fragmented. There's lots of local ISPs that essentially you can say limited to not even a country, but even maybe a city. So like metro areas. And if you consider opening a data center somewhere there, you need to take this into account. Tier 1 providers are usually very consolidated and very monopolistic there. So they drive all the small players from the market. And if you want to actually have redundancy, you need to go with tier 1, of course, and you don't have any other choice. And for redundancy, from local redundancy perspective, some people might still be using the local providers. So the customers in this city, they will be based on a hot potato routing. They will be just they need to use the local small ISPs. And what we saw when we established the data center there is that some of the providers, their traffic was by default less preferred by tier 1, tier 2 ISPs than any other traffic. So even if we cut off the tier 1 ISP, the smaller provider could not provide a fully redundant, fully diverse operational solution to take all the traffic from the main link, which might degrade the customer experience, and we do not want that.
Yeah. Do you mean like that they did a bit too much traffic engineering or something like that, or?
What they described is that actually what we saw with from the looking glasses as well, the prefixes announced through those providers had reduced local preference by tier 1 ISPs.
Okay.
So essentially they were less preferred by default by tier 1 ISPs locally. So the only way we could use them fully and load balance the traffic across both links is if the main provider link goes down. Then the whole traffic will go there. But that is not the way we want to operate the links, and we would like to prefer to do some equal load balancing between the ingress paths. So we had to sort of look for other solutions.
Yeah. Is there any option then to achieve that with BGP communities, or like is that not something that you typically see outside the tier 1 world there?
There, outside of tier 1, the support level of some of the ISPs might not be as operationally up to speed as the other bigger players. So getting them to understand what we actually want them to achieve kind of sometimes proves a little bit difficult. But this is a good solution as well. We are open to try it, and I think that might help us as well.
Good. Right. Shifting to you now, Martijn. So from the i3d.net side, what's the status of the LATAM backbone rollout and what will it unlock?
Yeah, so i3d.net has operated in South America for quite a long time. So I think we started out in Sao Paulo in Brazil in 2014 or thereabouts. And we relatively quickly managed to like attract all the local traffic from LATAM into Brazil properly, right? Or at least from the southern part of Latin America. Like you see the Argentinas, the Uruguays, Paraguays, Chile, etc. that will be able to go into Brazil. But now we are actually working on making our own long-distance intercontinental backbone and expanding it from like the Europe, North America, Asia, Africa, Middle East area where we already have it, also down into South America. So what we already have today is a connection from Ashburn to Sao Paulo on a Brusa and Junior cable. And also we have connection from Sao Paulo to Madrid. So we are using the only direct transatlantic path from Brazil, which is on Ella Link, and then we extend from Fortaleza with Someone. And the last thing that we are currently waiting on is some capacity on the Cibras cable between New York and Sao Paulo, and then we will have Sao Paulo fully on the long distance backbone at the level of redundancy that is our standard. We are also doing something with the smaller locations, like in Santiago and in Buenos Aires, and stitching them up to Sao Paulo. But what you really see is that like Brazil is the main volume of traffic for us. So that's why we focused our efforts really over there.
Yeah. Thanks. We going back to North America, and especially let's talk Phoenix, guys. So Phoenix is an important location for backups. Can you explain why this is, and also why Phoenix is known for being surprisingly underconnected? What routing challenges have you seen there?
Yeah. So in Phoenix, the situation is also quite unique, I would say. It's located in Arizona and away from the West Coast, away from the East Coast. So on the West Coast, it's not located where all the sea cables are terminated, usually undersea cables. And it's not on the crossroads of all cross-American optical paths. So it's somewhere in the middle. And what attracted us the most in this location is, despite its non-standard connectivity problems, I would say, is that the power that we could achieve, like the power price per kilowatt that we could achieve there, due to the local pricing, was very competitive, and that was the key selling point for establishing a data center there. We still see sometimes customers local to Phoenix, when they want to back up locally to the data center, coming through the Los Angeles. So their traffic is backhauling through LA due to how the ISPs are designed there, unfortunately. So I hope with the time, the connectivity level, there improves. But as of now, sufficiently, it is already sufficient for the good customer experience that we provide.
Yeah, the backup performance is more like the throughput that is important, and less the latency, the raw latency. Like, I do think that it's mainly like a tier 1 problem, like that they don't consider Phoenix to be like an important interconnection hub where they build like the direct PNIs with each other. But on the other hand, like we do know there is like a peering ecosystem in Phoenix. And like i3d.net, I think already managed to interconnect with one of the incumbents in that area. We keep improving that location a bit more, right? Because we only recently launched, I think in November, December, thereabouts. So still a lot of improvements to come over there, I would hope.
So you were also not present there before. So
No,
I hope
indeed.
that at some point more and more providers and backbone operators consider Phoenix as a competitive and favorable location to base their point of presence on.
Yeah, and to make actual breakout and do the interconnection and localize the traffic as much as possible, right? I mean, that's
Right.
what it's all about for us as well.
Yeah, and Phoenix was like really a joint effort, right, for the both of us, and definitely that has some impact also on both teams. So, How did both teams manage the roadblocks in Phoenix during onboarding and still keep the project on track? Let's start with Ilya for this one.
Oh, this one involved a lot of back and forth and like maybe 100 of emails sending with third-party providers, as you know. But yeah, I think the main reason we made the deadline and we overcame all the issues that we faced with the Phoenix deployment and in general the project deployment is amazing and constant support from i3d.net team. You were helping us all the steps along the way, and I think this is the key factor that allowed us to achieve the deadlines. As for Phoenix deployment itself, I'm actually amazed at how fast you were able to deploy in this location, because previously we also had some back and forth with internet exchange in this location, where our data center does not have native internet exchange there, so we had to use some wavelengths or dark fibers to connect to another data center where you are present, and discussing with this provider like to achieve the connectivity is like a task that took months, I would say. And but you managed to do it in a record time, I'd say. So
how was that for us, Martijn at i3d.net?
Yeah, so I think that for neither of us, actually, it's our first rodeo to deploy like a new point of presence, right? So we knew sort of what the risks are. And some of these risks, like especially the ones that are like for third party, we cannot manage, right? Or we cannot circumvent completely. So for example, for the bare metal part of the contract, for us, it was super easy because, okay, this is off the shelf hardware. It's already in the data center. Like you could order that with an API call and be done like 24 hours or a couple of minutes or whatever later with the entire deployment. The challenge, though, is like building out the colo, all the logistics of getting all the hardware there, all the logistics of making sure that all the carriers that you're using actually deliver on time. And there we actually also foresaw that there could be issues when it comes to like the delivery of some key component that is not missable, right? So we sought to de-risk that as much as possible. First thing we did is that we knew that we both had like a Dallas location that was going to be like possible to keep alive a little bit longer than the rest of the network. So what we did is that rather than only deploying to Phoenix, we also ended up making like a temporary interconnection between our networks in Dallas. So basically, no matter what kind of shenanigans went down in Phoenix, that, okay, we would be able to deliver what is needed for you guys to continue operating and deliver the customer experience that you needed. Okay, so that's one piece of pressure and one headache done. Then on the other hand, like i3d.net maintains like one of the things we learned during COVID is that we sort of need to maintain like a strategic stockpile of like hardware. So we had some routers and line cards and whatnot already available, that even though nowadays certain vendors have like delivery lead times in the hundreds of days, we could actually start shipping immediately upon the agreement being reached between us. And last thing is that we ended up having to wait quite a bit for some of the wavelengths. These are always like, let's say there are some providers who can do it in a couple of days. But like in North America, that's very few who can do that.
Yeah.
Even if you would go with rush fees. So we, I think in the end it took like a couple of weeks, in some cases months, for capacity to be delivered. But that's one of the things that you sort of have to deal with.
Yeah, you can't influence that, especially right now with procurement issues across the globe. And, some of the third-party providers, they had to also do a network build for us.
Yeah.
So that also takes time. And if we run into issues with shipping the hardware, getting the hardware, they are also doing the same thing, and they are also facing the same issues.
Yeah, and one of the things that we are also seeing now that we are working on our next project in North America is that we see that some providers say that, okay, in this metro area or that metro area, we are sold out and we cannot provide any more capacity to this entire metro or to this entire route. So like really various providers, it's not just one of them, are like running into the limits of the build that they currently have. And I think that's really like the effect of the AI boom, where everybody is gobbling up all the capacity they can get.
Right.
Gentlemen, that were all my questions. Basically, you covered all the points. I want to thank both of you, especially Ilya. Thank you very much for joining us, for all the valuable insights that you shared. Martijn, as always.
Words, indeed.
Yeah. Thank you very much as well, especially the kind words. Thanks for that. And everybody tuning in, thank you very much for listening in to this podcast between i3d.net and Acronis. And as I say, hope to see you at the next one as well.